Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
Yes, so I was at the Locology conference this week, which was very strange because it was like a mix of some safety protocols and then total disregard of them. But among the handful of sessions I attended was a session presented by Wix in which they revealed a bunch of numbers about their customer base. And David, that caught your eye, and you wanted to chat about that.
It did. So I was struck, of course, by the top line number, not so much the 1.1 billion in revenue, which is certainly impressive, but would have expected something close to that from a company of Wix's size. The number that really caught my eye was the 210 million, what they defined as users. And that sounds really amazing until you divide 1.1 billion by 210 million and come up with a $5 annual revenue per user. And so that struck me as, okay, they have a lot of freemium users included. And the other thing that struck me about that is 210 million is actually about double the size of most estimates I've heard for SMBs globally. So that would tell you that Wix has not only every SMB on the planet, but that two of them have signed up for a Wix website or a Wix product. So there's something funny going on with the numbers there. Greg, you eventually, I think, got them. I'm looking at your follow-up here that you eventually got them to disclose that 6.5 million of them are paying, which translates to an ARPU of about $170, which is great for a SaaS company that's serving the very small business like they are. So it just strikes me, we see a lot of these big numbers reported by tech companies. I know, Mike, you and I have taken a harder look at some of Yelp's quarterly reports previously and sort of identified most of their revenue is due to sales headcount in most cases. And it seems like there's a lot of tech companies out there trying to put numbers out there and hoping no one actually takes a deeper look at what they really mean. So that was the first takeaway. Greg, you were going to say something?
Well, I just wanted to say that Wix is a public company, and so they really can't lie to the market about their numbers. And I did ask them just real quickly to interject. I had to chase down two different people to get these answers. Are these 210 seats? And they said, no, these are 200 separate businesses or separate accounts, 210 million. And they also said half of them were in the US, basically. And then the 6.5 million were paying. And I said, well, these are way larger numbers than, as you point out, David, the reported number of SMBs. So who are these people? Side hustles and hobbyists and, sort of people who have this idea of starting a business, so there's a wide range of folks in there, but it sort of plays around with our notion of what the addressable market is, but keep going.
Well, yeah, I'll pick up on that point. So if that's true, if there's 100 million accounts in the United States, that means 1 in 3 Americans and probably closer to 1 in 2 Americans who are old enough to use a web browser or not too old to use a web browser. 1 in 2 of them have a Wix website. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. I would be surprised if 1 in 2 Americans has heard of Wix. There's just something crazy with these numbers. But I was going to actually spin this into a positive for Wix's standpoint. Just in the fact that they're clearly able to, regardless of what the actual number is, they are doing a good job of attracting people at a very early stage of their business. And it strikes me that they're coming at this from the angle of, okay, we're going to get you online with a website kind of thing first. And then that sort of is a little bit of a different angle to what Shopify and Square are attempting to do on the point of sale side of things. And I know, Greg, you pointed out Wix is partnering with point of sale companies. They're partnering with a whole range of other SaaS product providers to sort of expand their suite. But it just strikes me that they're sort of like, okay, Square probably has the sort of top of mindness for someone who wants to start a retail business, and Shopify probably has top of mindness for someone who wants to start an e-commerce business. But Wix is still getting in at a certain level with a whole range of maybe non-traditional businesses that don't fit neatly into one of those categories, and that might set them up for an opportunity to expand that ARPU with cross sells and upsells over time. And so it strikes me that
it also puts them earlier in the
exactly
funnel of business development.
Right. And so there's an easier chance to build loyalty. You know, the huge switching costs, as we all know, of changing a website provider or changing who hosts your email. So it seems like that's a positive for them, regardless of how big or small that total number is. Directionally, it's impressive.
Well, I agree, but what's interesting to me is that we've got the U.S. Census Bureau, or the Bureau of Labor Statistics, saying there are 32 million small businesses in the U.S. from 0 headcount to 499 people, right? And most of those are solopreneurs or SOHOs or whatever you want to call them. And so that's 30 million. But we've got 100 million at Wix, and then we've got Squarespace, and we've got GoDaddy, and we've got WordPress, and we've got Duda, and we've got, a bunch of hosts, and they've got collectively probably several million. And so there's the conventional wisdom that the addressable market for SMBs is somewhere in the 10 to 15 million range, which is kind of the informal discussion. It's very strange to sort of reconcile all these things, because clearly some of these people who are on the Wix platform, which is the largest single platform, are trying to make money or trying to develop businesses or whatever, and do constitute small businesses. And so I don't quite see how to get all these, the conventional wisdom around who is a small business, who is the addressable market. This to me sort of raises a kind of interesting and fundamental question about that. I mean, if you're an agency...
So I would just say, though, Greg, so even if you take Wix's paid numbers only, right, which would be something like 3.3 million paying customers.
Assuming that they're split evenly, right?
Right. I think you said in your comment...
They may have more paid members in the U.S. than in Europe.
Okay, great, which would even amplify my point of, okay, that's 10% of the typically addressable market. That's a huge chunk for one company to have, particularly on the low end. So,
well, and we continue to see these surveys from Shopify, from CallRail, from a bunch of different sources that say, still, we talked about this previously, 40 plus to 50% of small businesses say they don't have a website. These are active marketing, established small businesses that are spending money on Facebook, on Google. That's also very bizarre. Like that. If you try and extrapolate that number, the implications of that are really weird, given all these other numbers around, right? So that would mean there are 50% more small businesses out there that aren't on Wix or aren't on another platform.
Right.
And that just doesn't seem possible somehow. Anyway, Mike, you have nothing to say about that?
I don't. I mean, you're gonna have to come on full time in Near Media and resolve that.
Well, it's just really perplexing, and I've had a bunch of coffee, so that's probably why I'm as worked up as I am. I don't normally drink coffee anymore, but I did today because of sleep deprivation. So,
and I would add one more number to your mix, which is InfoUSA is somewhere in the 16 million plus locations, which is a different metric, and Google is somewhere just under 17 million in the United States. But again, it's location based, not, and probably 500,000 of those are at fake SAP listings of the 17 million. So
17
at least
million
in Google's case.
You said SAP?
What's that? Yeah, I don't know. I was making a spam.
500,000 garage door listings. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Or insurance lead gen spam. Yeah,
okay, right. All right. Maybe we'll do some report someday about these numbers and make sense of them all for everyone, if that can happen.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.